People usually think that big stories start in big places, but this one begins on a cold, forgotten street where a thin, tired boy sat on a broken curb, watching the world pass him by. His clothes were worn, his shoes had holes, and his hands were rough from surviving days that were far too hard for someone his age. His name was Liam, a homeless boy who had learned to smile even when life gave him no reason to. Every morning he woke up before the sun, gathered the little coins people dropped, and spent the day hoping for something better. Some days he got a leftover sandwich from a kind stranger. Other days he got only cold stares and silence, but he never complained. He believed that someday, somehow, life would change for him. One chilly morning, as the sky faded from gray to pale blue, Liam wandered near the city park, hoping to find something he could recycle for a little money. The grass was wet from the night rain, and birds pecked at the ground. Nothing looked different, nothing felt different, until he spotted something unusual near a bench. It was a bag, not an ordinary one. It looked expensive, too clean, too polished to belong to someone from this neighborhood. He looked around quickly, wondering who might have left it there. No one seemed to be searching for anything. The people walking by were busy with their phones, busy with their own lives. Liam stepped closer, his heart beating faster. He felt nervous. Anything left in a public place usually belonged to someone who wanted it back badly, but he wasn't a thief. He knew that clearly. Still, curiosity pulled him toward the bag. He reached for it slowly, brushing rainwater off the surface. The material felt soft, new, nothing like the rough backpacks he saw on the streets. He opened it just enough to peek inside, expecting maybe some clothes or books or snacks. But what he saw made his breath catch in his throat. Inside was a wallet thick with bills and a phone that looked far too expensive to even touch. There was also a silver card, shiny and engraved with a symbol he had never seen before. For a moment, Liam just froze. His mind raced. If he took the money, he could eat for weeks. He could buy warm clothes. He could finally sleep somewhere safe. But his heart whispered something else. He remembered all the times people accused him of things he never did just because he was homeless. He remembered how badly it hurt when people assumed the worst. He wasn't going to be like that. Not today. Not ever. He closed the bag carefully and looked around again, hoping someone would come running toward him yelling, "That's mine," but no one did. Everyone was just passing by, unaware of the moment that could change everything. He held the bag closed and walked quickly toward the security booth near the park entrance. It was the responsible thing to do. The guard there, a tall man with tired eyes, stared at Liam suspiciously as he approached. "Where did you get that?" the guard asked, his tone sharp. Liam explained, but the man still looked at him like he was lying. It hurt, but Liam kept calm. He only wanted to return the bag, nothing more. The guard finally picked up a phone and called someone. After a few seconds, his expression changed, not fully friendly but less hostile than before. He told Liam to wait outside. Liam stood near the booth, shivering slightly from the cold. He didn't know what was going to happen. He didn't even know whose bag it was. But he hoped that someone would be grateful. Minutes passed slowly, and just when Liam started to feel anxious, 2 black cars stopped near the park gate. The doors opened, and men in suits stepped out, real, proper suits, the kind he had only seen from far away in office buildings. They looked important, too important. Liam felt a wave of fear. What if they thought he stole it? What if they didn't believe him? One of the men talked to the guard and then walked toward Liam, his expression unreadable. "You found the bag?" the man asked. Liam nodded, trying not to let his voice shake. The man studied him closely, and after a long pause, he simply sighed, "Come with us." Liam's heart thudded heavily in his chest. He didn't know if he should run or follow, but something about the man's voice made him feel that he wasn't in danger. So he followed, stepping into a world he had never been close to before. As he sat inside the car, he noticed how soft the seats were. He felt smaller than ever, like a kid lost in a place he didn't belong. No one spoke, and the silence made every second feel longer. The car drove through parts of the city Liam had never seen. tall buildings and shining lights that made him wonder what kind of person the bag belonged to. When the cars finally stopped in front of a grand building that looked like a palace, Liam's eyes widened. It didn't seem real. The gates alone were taller than anything he had ever stood next to. The guards at the entrance bowed slightly as the men in suits walked past them, before Liam could ask anything. The same man who brought him there turned to him and said, "The owner of the bag wants to meet you." Liam felt his stomach twist. Whoever this person was, they must be incredibly wealthy. He had no idea that this meeting would change his life forever. He had no idea that the bag he returned belonged not just to a rich person, but to a Prince. And what the prince had written in his private files about that bag was something Liam was never prepared to hear. Liam stepped through the massive doors, his heart beating fast as he entered the grand hall. Everything around him felt unreal, the perfectly polished floors, the golden chandeliers that hung like frozen stars, the walls decorated with art so beautiful he didn't even know how to describe it. For a homeless boy who had spent most nights sleeping on concrete, this place felt like another world entirely. A butler guided him forward. The man didn't smile, but he wasn't rude either. He simply observed Liam curiously, as if trying to understand how a child like him ended up carrying something that belonged to royalty. Liam walked quietly, trying not to touch anything or stare too long at the luxury around him. He didn't want to look out of place, but he knew he did. Every step reminded him of the cracks in his shoes, the dirt on his clothes, the life he came from. Finally, the butler stopped in front of a large wooden door. He knocked once, waited, and opened it slowly. Liam wasn't sure what he expected. Maybe a strict, serious prince sitting at a giant desk. Maybe someone old, powerful, intimidating. But when he entered, he was surprised. The prince was young, not much older than someone in his early 20s. He stood by a window, his posture straight, but his expression oddly thoughtful. He turned when he heard Liam step inside, and for a moment their eyes met. Liam felt small again, unsure of what to say, unsure of how royalty expected him to speak. "So," the prince began, his voice calm, "you are the boy who found my bag." Liam swallowed and nodded. "Yes, sir. I just found it on a bench and brought it back. I didn't touch the money or anything." The prince walked closer, studying his face. His gaze wasn't harsh. Instead, it seemed filled with curiosity and something else, perhaps disbelief. "Most people wouldn't return it," the prince said quietly. "Especially someone who has very little." Liam felt embarrassment rise in his chest. He didn't want to be pitied. "I just thought it was the right thing," he said softly. The prince gave a faint smile, not mocking, almost impressed. He turned to one of the guards in the room and nodded. The guard stepped out, leaving Liam alone with the prince. "Sit," the prince said gently. Liam hesitated, worried that he might dirty the expensive furniture. But he obeyed, sitting carefully at the edge of a chair. The prince sat across from him, folding his hands. "Do you know what was inside that bag?" he asked. "I saw a phone," Liam replied. "A wallet, a silver card. I didn't open anything else." "That silver card," the prince said slowly, "is something only royal family members possess. It grants access to private areas of the palace, confidential archives, and international travel without restrictions." Liam blinked, surprised. He hadn't known that. To him, it was just a shiny card. If someone stole it, the prince continued, it could have caused serious issues for the entire kingdom. He paused. "You saved us from that. And you didn't even know." Liam stared at the floor, unsure of how to respond. He had never saved anything in his life. He was just trying to do the right thing. The prince leaned back slightly. "What is your name?" "Liam." "And where are your parents, Liam?" Liam hesitated. This was the question he hated the most, the hardest one. "I don't know," he whispered. "I've been alone since I was little." The prince's expression softened, and for a moment Liam saw something unexpected: sympathy. Not pity, sympathy, as if the prince understood something deeper than what Liam said out loud. Before the room grew too quiet, the guard returned holding a small velvet box. The prince opened it and took out a neatly folded document. There was also an envelope sealed with a royal stamp. The prince placed both items on the table between them. This, he said, tapping the document, was inside the bag too. Liam looked confused. He hadn't seen any document. The prince opened it and slid it across the table. Liam glanced down and froze. His heart jumped to his throat. It wasn't money. It wasn't a secret plan. It was something else entirely. The title read, Confidential Royal Identity Investigation. Liam tried to understand. Why? Why would this be in your bag? The prince took a deep breath. Because, he said slowly, for the past 6 months I have been searching for someone, a missing child. Liam felt a strange chill. The prince continued. An orphan, lost many years ago. Someone connected to the royal family. Liam stared at him, unsure if he was imagining things. What does that have to do with me? He asked, his voice almost shaking. The prince hesitated a moment, then opened the sealed envelope. He pulled out a photograph, old and slightly faded, and placed it in front of Liam. The boy in the picture had messy hair, wide eyes, and a shy smile. Liam leaned forward, staring at it harder, and his breath caught. It was him. Not exactly him now, but him, years younger. His hands trembled. This looks like... Yes, the prince said softly, like you. Liam's mind spun. He felt like the floor was falling away beneath him. But that's impossible, he whispered. I'm nobody. The prince stood and walked toward him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. You are not nobody, he said firmly. You were never nobody. Liam blinked, overwhelmed. You, the prince said slowly, may be the child we've been searching for, the one who disappeared. Liam's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He couldn't understand how returning a bag led to this. He couldn't understand how a homeless boy could be connected to a prince, to a kingdom, to anything this important. But why me? He managed to ask. The prince answered with words that would stay with Liam forever, because the note found with the missing child, he said quietly, had one message, one clue. Liam lifted his head slowly. The prince looked him in the eyes. It said, he will return by doing something good. Liam sat frozen, staring at the prince as if time had suddenly stopped. The words echoed in his mind again and again. He will return by doing something good. He had no idea someone out there had written a message about him. No idea that his small act of honesty, returning a lost bag, could be connected to something so enormous. His chest tightened. His palms were cold. He didn't know whether to believe it or to run out of the room and pretend none of this was happening. The prince didn't rush him. He simply watched him with calm, steady eyes, as if giving Liam space to breathe. When Liam finally found his voice, it came out thin and unsure. What if you're wrong? He whispered. What if I'm not the boy you're looking for? The prince gave a gentle smile. Then we confirm it? And if you're not, we will still help you. But Liam, everything matches so far. He nodded toward the photograph again. Your face, your age. Even the scar on your eyebrow. Look closely. Liam slowly reached up and touched the small scar he had had since childhood, a scar he never remembered getting. He looked at the picture once more. The younger boy had the same mark in the same place. His breathing grew uneven. I don't understand any of this, he murmured. I don't remember anything from back then. That's normal, the prince said softly. The child who went missing was very young, and the records suggest he might have suffered shock during the disappearance. Lost memories can be a result of trauma. He paused, then added quietly, whoever abandoned you must have hidden your identity to keep you safe, or to keep you away from us. The thought hit Liam like a punch. Someone had left him alone, but not because they didn't want him. Maybe because they were protecting him, or hiding him. He didn't know which idea scared him more. The prince stood and walked to a cabinet near the wall. He opened a drawer and took out another file. There's more, he said, placing it gently on the table. Liam's stomach tightened again. He watched as the prince opened the file, revealing more papers, more old photos, and what looked like a medical report. The child we lost, the prince said slowly, was the next in line after me. Not a direct heir to the throne, but close, a cousin. He looked at Liam again. If you truly are him, this kingdom has been missing one of its rightful nobles for almost a decade. Liam stared down at his hands. They were shaking slightly. He curled them into fists to stop the trembling. He whispered. I'm just a boy who lives on the street. The prince walked around the table and knelt beside him. Liam looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. Listen carefully, the prince said gently. Where you come from doesn't define where you can go. Your past doesn't erase your worth. And if you really are the lost child, then you are part of this family. You belong somewhere. You are not alone anymore. Liam felt something warm and painful rise in his chest. Belonging, it was a feeling he had never truly tasted. The idea that he might have a family out there felt impossible and terrifying and beautiful all at the same time. The prince stood again and nodded to the guard. Prepare the royal clinic. We'll run the identification tests immediately. The guard bowed and left. Liam swallowed hard. Tests? He asked softly. Just normal identity verification, the prince explained. DNA matching, birthmark, comparison, medical scans, nothing that will hurt you. Liam nodded slowly. He wasn't afraid of medical tests. He was afraid of the results. He was afraid of what it meant if they said yes. But he was also afraid of hearing no, because for the first time in his life he wanted an answer. He wanted to know who he really was. The prince saw the conflict on his face. Liam, he said softly, whatever we discover, you won't be abandoned again, not by me. Liam blinked hard, fighting the sting in his eyes. No one had ever said something like that to him. They walked together through the palace hallways. Every room they passed seemed bigger and grander than the last. Liam kept his hands close to his sides, still terrified of touching anything. At one point, they walked past a group of palace workers who stared at Liam with curiosity. A few whispered among themselves. Liam felt small again, but the prince glanced their way, and the whispers stopped instantly. For the first time, Liam felt protected. They finally reached the clinic, a brightly lit room with modern equipment. The royal doctor, an older man with kind eyes, greeted the prince respectfully before turning to Liam with a warm smile. So you're the brave boy who returned the prince's belongings, he said. That already tells me you have a noble heart. Liam blushed slightly. The doctor guided him gently through each step. A cheek swab, a scan of his birthmark, and a quick measurement of his facial features to compare with the photograph. The prince watched the entire time, arms folded, but his expression soft, almost hopeful. The test didn't take long, but the waiting afterward felt like forever. Liam sat quietly in a small side room while the doctor analyzed the results. His thoughts raced. What if they confirmed it? What if they didn't? The prince sat beside him, not saying a word at first. Then, finally, he spoke. You know, he said thoughtfully, when I was younger, the boy who disappeared. He was like a little brother to me. He paused, looking straight ahead. His disappearance changed everything. It changed the entire family. Liam turned to look at him, surprised. I never stopped hoping we would find him, the prince continued. I never stopped believing he was alive. He glanced at Liam then. Maybe that hope was for you. Liam didn't know what to say. No one had ever hoped for him before. Before he could respond, the doctor opened the door slowly. His expression was calm but unreadable. The results, he said, are ready. Liam felt his heart stop. The doctor stepped forward, holding a file. He looked at Liam, then at the prince, and finally opened the file with a deep breath. And in that moment, Liam knew that whatever the doctor was about to say, his life would never be the same again. The room fell silent as the doctor held the open file in his hands. Liam felt the world around him blur. The prince stood a step closer, his eyes fixed on the doctor with a mixture of hope and fear. Everything slowed, as if the air itself was. Holding its breath, waiting for the truth that had been buried for so many years, the doctor finally looked up. His voice was steady, but gentle. Your Highness. The DNA is a match. Liam felt his heart stop. The words didn't feel real. They floated in the air, strange and heavy, as if spoken in a dream. A match. He wasn't just some random boy who found a bag on the street. He wasn't just a forgotten child abandoned in an alley. He was the missing member of a royal family. The prince closed his eyes for a brief moment, as if relief washed over him all at once. Then he turned to Liam, emotion brightening his face. "I knew it," he whispered. "I felt it the moment I saw you." Liam didn't know what he felt: shock, fear, joy, confusion. His body trembled. He brought his hands to his face, trying to steady his breathing. All his life he had wanted to know where he belonged. And now the answer was bigger than anything he could have imagined. The prince put a hand on his shoulder. "You're home," he said gently. "You're really home." The doctor stepped forward with a warm smile. "There are still more things to understand, Your Highness," he said. "But the identity is confirmed." He handed Liam a piece of paper that showed the matching markers. "You are part of this family." Liam stared at the paper. His name wasn't even really Liam. That wasn't the name he was born with. The prince knelt beside him again, his voice soft. "Your birth name is Akeem," he said. "Akeem Adwail. It means one who brings strength." Liam felt something inside him shift, like a puzzle piece that had been missing his whole life finally clicked into place, but then another feeling crept in. Fear. What happens now? Liam asked, barely above a whisper. The prince smiled. "Now. We take things one step at a time. I won't force anything on you. You decide what you're ready for." The guard knocked lightly on the door. "Your Highness, the Royal Council has arrived. They want to confirm the report." The prince nodded. "Give us a moment." The guard left, and the prince turned back to Liam. "You're not alone in this," he said. "Whatever happens, I'm with you." They walked back through the palace hallways, and this time, Liam noticed something he hadn't before. This place didn't feel as frightening. The floor didn't feel too shiny. The ceilings didn't feel too high, and the walls didn't feel like they were watching him. Instead, everything felt warmer, as if the palace had opened its arms to him. But the council was another story. When they entered the room, Liam saw several older, serious-looking men and women sitting around a long table. They wore traditional garments, symbols of their authority. Some looked curious, others skeptical, and a few stared at Liam with disbelief, as if they couldn't imagine that a boy from the street could be part of their royal bloodline. The prince stood tall beside Liam. "This is him," he said firmly. "The tests are conclusive," one of the elders leaned forward. "We will need confirmation from our own specialist," he said. But his tone softened when he looked at Liam. "Young man, you must have had a difficult life." Liam didn't know what to say. He only nodded. Another council member asked, "Do you remember anything at all from your early childhood?" Liam shook his head. "Only shadows," he said. "Faces I can't recognize, a voice calling me by a name I didn't understand." The council exchanged looks. The prince put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "He's telling the truth." "But we must know," another elder said, "why he was taken and who abandoned him." The room fell quiet. Liam swallowed. He had asked himself the same questions all his life. Then the prince stepped forward. "I intend to investigate," he said. "Now that we know he's alive, we must know who tried to erase him from this family." The council murmured in agreement. Liam suddenly felt a heavy pressure. Being found didn't mean the mystery was solved. In fact, it was only beginning. The prince led him out of the council chamber. This time they walked toward a quieter wing of the palace. "There's something you need to see," the prince said. They entered a small room filled with old photographs. The walls were covered in images of the royal family coronations, birthdays, festivals. Liam's eyes moved over them until the prince pointed to one in particular. Woman holding a small child. The same child from the earlier photograph. Liam donned the woman. Her smile gentle, her eyes warm. Liam felt his breath catch. "My mother?" he whispered. The prince nodded softly. "Yes." Liam stepped closer, touching the picture frame with trembling fingers. He didn't remember her, but something in the picture felt familiar, like a song he'd heard once long ago but couldn't quite recall. "She loved you very much," the prince said. She never forgave herself after you disappeared. Liam felt a lump rise in his throat. We didn't give up, the prince continued. We kept searching, but whoever took you, they covered their tracks well. Liam lowered his head. Why would anyone take me? The prince hesitated. We have theories. But it's too early to tell. Liam turned to him. Will I get to meet her, my mother? The prince's expression softened. Yes, but not today. She needs time and preparation. This news will change her world too. Liam nodded slowly. It made sense. But he couldn't help feeling nervous, excited, and scared all at once. The prince smiled. For now, I want to show you your room. Room? Liam blinked. Yes, the prince laughed gently. This is your home now. You deserve your own space. Come. They walked into a quiet hallway. At the end was a beautifully carved door. The prince opened it and Liam stepped inside. He froze. The room was large but simple. A big bed with soft blankets, a small desk, a window overlooking the palace gardens, and a closet filled with clothes that actually fit him. Liam felt tears fill his eyes. All this for me? For you, the prince said. You are a king. You belong here. Liam sank onto the bed, overwhelmed. He had slept on cold streets, in abandoned sheds, under bridges, and now? This. The prince stood by the door. Rest tonight, he said softly. Tomorrow, we start rebuilding your life. Liam looked up at him. Thank you, he whispered. For what? The prince asked gently. For not giving up on me? Liam said. The prince smiled. Family never gives up. He left the room quietly, closing the door behind him. Liam lay down, staring at the ceiling as the world slowly settled around him. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. There were still so many unanswered questions, so many mysteries, so many truths waiting to be uncovered. But for the first time in his entire life, he felt safe, he felt wanted, he felt home, and deep inside he knew this was only the beginning.